All right. So, um, we were cut off short yesterday with our conversation because of the baby. And so we didn't quite finish. And you had some questions as well. Um, but we had gotten into the talk of karma because you had mentioned action. And so I was given kind of a uh, sort of modern view of the classical teachings of the Buddha as reference to that, uh, and mentioned Sutta number 57, the dog duty aesthetic, where the four kinds of karmas are talked about. And we had talked about the first law of karma is that there is good action that does lead to good results, but that it's not a magical teaching, it's an actual cause and effect, and that the good of the good action is determined by the goodness of the outcome. And so also, bad actions will give bad results. For instance, if you drink poison, the act, you will die, the result. If you did not die or did not have adverse qualities with drinking the poison, then there would not be any wrong action in taking the poison, nor any wrong action in the guy who gave you the cup of poison to drink. He wanted to have that bad reaction for you see. All right, so this is what we mean by good and bad action is based upon the good and bad results. Another example in the English language would be that the tree is known by its fruit. An example of that is an apple tree. Why do we call an apple tree an apple tree? Why don't we call it a fig tree? The answer is because the apple tree bears apples and it does not bear figs. Okay, so this is what we mean by good action giving good results and bad action giving bad results. But we've already discussed how time has a factor in there so that the power of an act, never mind how powerful that act is, it does have a diminishing influence. But sometimes that diminishing influence takes a long, long time. An example of that would be Hitler and Auschwitz, because there are still long term results of those actions, and that those long term results have clouded borders and countries and wars and all kinds of things. All right, so the past does have a residual effect, but it does not have the kind of original, let us say, not original, residual effect the way that the Hindu version of karma operates. Now, what I mean by that is that they say that good action will give good results and bad action will give bad results. Then they say, well, always a good result or a good action will give good results eventually, and that the recipient of that good result will be the actor who did that action. But the reality is that, oh no, that sometimes one actor's actions will bring about tremendous results on other people who then may want to retaliate to him because of his bad action. So people would say, oh, that Hitler being cornered, put into a bunker uh, in the last days, and then as the Russian troops um, took over Berlin, he in his bunker eventually shot himself, is not punishment enough. That what Hitler did was so bad that he needs to be drug up out of the grave and slapped around some more because of his crimes were so heinous. But in fact, that's not the way that the law of karma operates. That we don't know about what happened to Hitler after he shot himself. We only know that he was in great suffering when he shot himself. And maybe he did so with great regret. Wow, I wish I had not burned down the Parliament building so many years ago, because that's what got all of this crap started. You know, we don't know if he ever had those kind of thoughts, but we do know that he, throughout that period of time, was in great difficulty, great suffering. Everyone was abandoning him. He could not trust his generals. In fact, very much like exactly what's happening with Donald Trump right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, that whole idea of good and bad actions, giving good and bad results only to the actor, is the Hindu teaching. But the reality of the situation is much broader than that, that our actions sometimes have great influence on others, whether they're good or bad. This is what is called the butterfly effect. That the butterflies, because they go to a particular tree or a particular kind of tree in Mexico, sets off all kinds of side effects. Have you ever heard of the butterfly effect?
Mm-hmm. I've heard it in the context of a butterfly flaps his wings in New York, and you know, someone dies in Paris or something like that.
Yes, but you see, that's a magical version of the butterfly effect. Instead of looking at it as a real effect, that's sometimes very difficult to see all of the threads.
Mm-hmm.
And that whenever someone in Paris dies, their death is due to a number of causes and effects.
Right.
So you cannot brace it all back to the butterflies, the butterfly's fault. No, you can't do that, because things are much more sophisticated, much more complicated than that.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have this third law of karma, that everything is actually mixed. That the actual flapping of the butterfly's wings really did not have anything to do with anybody dying in Paris, or at least not from the perspective of the butterfly.
Mm-hmm.
That he's just flapping wings. He and 10 million other butterflies flapping wings on this particular tree. But he's doing what everybody's doing anyway. So, every action generally has both positive and negative impact depending upon your point of view. And that your point of view then, which would be either right or wrong ordinary view, but that point of view is based upon feeling. So if we feel and like something, then we think it's good. And if we don't like something, then we think it's bad. That this is very traditional teaching of Paticca Samuppada. That is based upon feelings. Our feelings that we have in the moment are not always pure and based upon purity, in the sense of based upon only this moment. That most of the feelings that arise and then are mixed in with past observations. For instance, if you know someone, you're going to have a different reaction to them when you see them than if you don't know someone. But here's a little bit different. Let us say that someone across the street is dressed in some sort of costume or whatever. Never mind that it's just something special to him. Two people on the other side of the street see that guy, and one of them hates him, and the other one loves him, and neither one of them know the guy.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because the one hates him and the one loves him is because one actually not hate and love, but one likes based upon the way he's dressed, they like that. And the other one, based upon the way he's dressed, doesn't like it. Let's say that he looks like an X-Man. You know the X-Men, okay, with the black suits and the sunglasses and all that. That's what the guy is standing over there. One guy thinks that he's CIA and he loves the CIA, and the other one says, no, he's not CIA, he's MI5, and I hate MI5. Okay, so that's that boundary. We make those kind of choices based upon our own past memories to come up with present feelings, so that our present feelings are never pure. They're almost always clouded with the sankaras of our memories of the past, of past feelings. We feel the way that we felt in the past. But it's in the present moment we have these feelings, and if we have that feeling ignorantly, then two things will happen. If I like it, then it becomes I want it. And also I can make the mistake, I like it, therefore it must be good. And if I don't like it, it must be bad. Now, this can in fact go way back into our primitive times when we were, let us say, foraging in the woods looking for something to eat. And the only thing that we have to go by is taste. And so if we taste something that we picked off a tree that is bitter, then we probably won't eat it. But if it tastes sweet, then we will. All right. So we're making that I like it into it must be good enough to eat, or I don't like it, therefore it must be something to be avoided. And so this is built right into our genes. It's built right into our um, reptilian brain, or into our instinctual way of doing things, so that when we like something, then we think it's good. And if we don't like something, we think it's bad. Well, now let's get back to the law of karma on that. Because now the decision is not based upon what the action actually was or what the result actually was. It's based upon our feelings about the result that determine whether the action was a good action or a bad action. By doing it that way, we recognize, well, the Hindu law of karma then is complete bonkers. It's complete magical thinking. That it is not the reality of the situation. And in fact, almost all of our action is mixed. And the determination of whether it's bright or dark action is based upon bright or dark results. And those bright or dark results are also subject to opinion. And those opinions are subject to feeling. And so one of the ways that we operate with that is to come out of those ordinary views of this is good and this is bad to a noble view. One's right noble view is to not see things as good or bad, but to see them clearly instead, including seeing how we feel about it without going to, because I feel this way, it must be good, and if I feel that way, it must be bad, but just see it as this is how it is, and this is how I feel. And that's one's noble right view, is to come out of our views about what is good and what is bad. All right, so now this is a good point to introduce the fourth law of karma that the Buddha gives. And that is that as a review for the third law, a mixed action that is mixed results is mixed in the sense that it's mixed with good and bad based upon opinion. But there is a fourth kind of karma, and that is a kind of karma that is not good and it is not bad. It is neither good nor bad in this action, and it gives results that are neither good nor bad, neither bright nor dark results. But this kind of action is a much more natural action, you see, because all of the other actions are based upon ignorance and delusion about feelings, and ignorance and delusion about right and wrong and good and bad. But the noble right view is that our actions are neither good nor bad. Now, taking it back from the noble back to the ordinary level, a noble will avoid suffering. They will avoid dukkha. They will avoid dissatisfaction. If they're in the mode of mentally avoiding dissatisfaction, then they're not going to take an action that intentionally causes or creates dissatisfaction. In other words, they're not going to harm people. They may take an action that people feel harmed by, but the intention was not to harm. The intention was to teach. An example of that is teaching the Noble Dhamma on the internet, and you're going to get mixed results. Always mixed results. No matter whether there was good or bad intention in the teaching, you're going to have people who are going to experience good and bad results, depending upon their feelings. I like it or I don't like it. And that's depending upon their past, not the present data.
Mm-hmm.
Is based upon old views and old sankaras and old ways of feelings rather than what's happening in the moment. So one's noble right view, then, the intention is to not cause harm. The intention is to tell the truth. But it also is not a good action leading to a good result, because the normal way of thinking about that is magical thinking, in the sense that if I give this, then that later will happen. Almost always postponed. An example of that would be in Thailand, they do what is called Tom Bun. Tom Bun, Tom is the word for doing, and the word Bun, because bon voyage or benefit. You know that word from the Latin, which is also the same word from Pali. For example, the banker gets a boon.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Or bon
So,
voyage in French, having a good voyage. Okay. So Tom Boon means to make merit or to do good. And the reason that people make merit or do good or saibat or takbat, by the way, saibat means to place into it, but tak means to drop. And in Laos, they say takbat, they drop it into the bowl. But in Thailand, saibat means that they place it into the bowl. All right. But takbat, saibat, tambun, all of that has to do with doing good in order to get good results. And the good results have to do with this present moment rather than way off into the future. So we stop doing good for later results. Therefore, our actions are neither bright nor dark, because I'm not hoping for any results. I'm just doing the action because that's what feels good right now.
Okay.
Without looking for the future. So that means then that when we experience the results of that action, we don't experience it in the sense of it's bad, because, for instance, somebody heard the Dhamma on the internet and they didn't like it, therefore it's bad to them, and they say so. Therefore, now because I know they don't like it, I feel bad. All right, no, don't have to do that. They can feel bad if they want to. That's their choice. But I do not have to experience the bad results of an action that had no bad action in it. And the same thing with the good action. Now, there is something that occurs when we begin to see, from a noble perspective, all of our action is neither bright nor dark, and that we're expecting neither bright nor dark results. Eventually, we begin to understand, wait a minute, the law of karma actually is much more immediate. We get immediate results. An example of that would be the grandmother who, at Christmas times, gives little Johnny, in a nice package, a pair of socks. And Johnny opens his Christmas present and he sees those socks, and he basically just tosses them aside as if they were nothing, and he goes to the next present because it means nothing to him. And Mom says, tell Granny thank you for her Christmas present. And so his thank you is half-hearted at best. In
Forced.
Is not real. All
Hmm.
right. But the problem was not the Johnny. It was the problem was is that Grandma was expecting different results, and if she had been thinking about it, you have to have it so that you have to give a gift that's wanted. You cannot
Hmm.
get good results by giving a gift that's not wanted. And
Wasn't
so,
skillful.
yeah, skillful means that Granny could have gone to Mom and says, what does little Johnny actually want? Something that you can't afford or something that he's going to really like. Maybe a
Hmm.
pony or a bicycle. Got to check those kinds of things out with Mom first. But Granny could, or an accordion or a ukulele,
Yeah,
something that he would like to have.
yeah. I'm sure Mom would like that too.
Yes.
The accordion playing.
Yes, exactly. So now you're getting the point. So if Granny goes and gives a gift that is going to give good results right then she will get the good results. This is what generosity is really all about. Is the feeling good and feeling wealthy because we have the resources to make someone else happy
Hmm. Yeah, right now.
right now in the present moment. And because they are happy with that, then natural uh, um, gratitude will arise. It's going to be a real thank you. That Johnny's going to jump up from the guitar or the accordion or whatever and run across the room and give Granny a big hug. Thank you, Granny. I really
Hmm.
like this. Okay. So now we're looking at what real generosity is or what real good action is because it does give good results immediately. And it's based upon skill.
Hmm.
And so some people, when the teacher is being skillful, will get the skillful results, but other students in the room will not get it because they're in a different place. That if the teacher would change his style and teach to the other student skillfully, then they would get it, but the other guys won't. You're always going to get get mixed results. There's always going to be some mixed results, but through skillful means, we can bring it to the point of acting skillfully so that we can get a better, let us say, probability of the good results. And
Hmm.
so, this is one of the reasons why gratitude is practiced so strongly within the community. An example of that would be a walking stick. Now, that walking stick, someone cut down and gave it to the monk, and the monk has been carrying it around for years. Maybe that monk died and his attendant got the walking stick, and now the walking stick begins to have a history of its own. Whether the history follows that walking stick or not is not important. The important point is that that walking stick is passed down from one monk to another over a period of years out of generosity. I don't need this walking stick anymore. I'm going to give it to you.
Hmm.
Okay, so that's the way that things begin to share, but I use walking stick as only an example. But that the monks generally share with each other, nobody really considers that they own much of anything. And so anything can be easily given. One of the things that I found quite amazing was in Thailand, a lot of monks have cell phones, but a lot of them are not attached to the cell phone. Achan
Hmm.
Po has a cell phone, but he doesn't carry it around. His driver carries it around. But Achan Po doesn't even think of it as his cell phone. Somebody just hands him a cell phone and says, "This call is for you." And so
Hmm.
that's the way of looking at it. Is that we don't look for ownership. We look for sharing and generosity. And that's the right way of operating. So, in that regard, this kind of action that is based upon noble right view, a kind of action that is neither bright nor dark because it does not have the expectations of a bright or a dark result, is done in the moment with the results expected immediately or not at all.
Mm-hmm.
By doing it that way, we come to the point of not needing to do so much anymore. We used to do a whole lot to get a good result later. An example of that is a job. You go to work because you want that paycheck. It's a barter situation. That's the law of karma in action in America. You go to work, and then at the end of the week or month, you get a paycheck. Well, guess what? That is not going to always happen. There's been many cases when you don't get that paycheck. In fact, a lot of companies, when they go out of business, their last payroll is never met.
Mm-hmm.
They don't announce the collapse of the company until after the payroll check is due and unpaid.
Mm-hmm.
So the people get a pink slip instead of a paycheck. That happens very commonly. So there's no guarantee that you're going to get paid. But we do it anyway. We think because it happens most of the time that we're going to get paid, but we're not always going to get paid. We cannot count on that law of karma.
Mm-hmm.
Can't count on it. That sometimes we're not going to get paid. Sometimes we do something good and we get bad results, or we don't like the results. But the point that we're getting here is that as we begin to see this, we stop doing things that are good and we stop doing things that we know are bad because of the noble view based upon the fact that we're not living a life of want anymore.
Right.
This is why the Buddha calls this kind of karma, this fourth kind of karma that is neither bright nor dark, it leads to the end of karma. A karma that leads to the end of karma.
Mm-hmm.
Because it leads to the end of actions, because it leads to the end of doing things to get results or doing things to punish people.
Mm-hmm.
That we do things much more naturally and expect the results naturally, but by doing so, we come to the point of having very little to do. There's nothing to do because almost all of my action was based upon trying to get a good result or trying to do damage. And now that I'm not trying to do either one of them, I'm not trying to do much of anything. And so it comes to the end of action. Karma
Mm-hmm.
that leads to the end of action is the fourth kind of karma. When we understand that, we have to understand it from noble right view, because ordinary right view will keep us in ordinary actions.
Right.
All right. So, in that regard, because the truth is really a big thing in Christianity, in the sense of a capital T truth, and they're looking for a capital T truth in the supernatural. But the Buddha was also big on truth, but the big on truth that he was the truth of the moment, the truth of reality right now. This is what's happening. So this kind of truth is the real thing. It's not capital T, it's just an ordinary truth, but it's real. That's what it's just the facts. Sergeant Friday in Dragnet in the television series, when he would go to interview people, they would be all hysterical about getting robbed, and he would try to calm them down. Just the facts, ma'am. Just the facts.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So when we come to the point of living with just the facts, we're coming closer and closer to the truth. We also know that going against the truth is going against the flow, going against the stream. It's unsatisfactory. And so one's right actions and right speech will be oriented towards the truth, not oriented towards protecting the feelings of the people who won't like the truth.
Right.
The real noble is unconcerned with other people's feelings because he's unconcerned with his own feelings. What he's concerned with is the truth. Ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. But first, it'll piss you off. So when you start spreading the truth, it's going to piss other people off. And we have to accept that. The question is, are we going to start lying just to protect other people's feelings?
The only reason we care about other people's feelings is because of our own feelings.
Exactly.
We care about our own feelings.
Exactly. So the noble Dharma needs to be spread, and sometimes people get into trouble that way. My two best examples is Socrates and Jesus. Jesus went into the temple and cleaned house because he knew it needed to be done, and he was unconcerned with either his feelings or anyone else's. He saw it needed to be done, and they nailed him within a week. There was a time in Athens when Socrates went around telling all of the young teenage boys to not join the military. Don't join the army. You see, the Athenians were getting really hostile towards the Spartans way back when, and they wanted to have a war. And Socrates is going all over Athens saying, don't join. Don't join the army. I did that also one time in my life. It happened to have been that I was in a bank when I was in the United States, still in robes. And a customer was telling, obviously they knew each other, and the customer was telling the clerk that her son or nephew or something was about to join the army. And when I heard that, I turned to her and said, so that both of them can hear him, please tell this boy, don't join the army. Don't join the army. He could get killed. He could get maimed. He could get discharged wrongly. It could be a major disaster for him. And even if he comes out of it, he will not get the VA benefits that they talk about. That all wars are unjust, especially whatever this kid is doing. Don't think he's going to get any benefit out of it. It's a really, really bad idea to join the army. These two women looked at me like I had really come from the moon.
Yeah.
But I was doing exactly what Socrates did. I'm glad they didn't
Pissing people
poison me
off.
on the right, but I'm glad they didn't poison me on the spot. But that's exactly what happened to Socrates. Is they put him in jail and gave him henlock. They actually gave him a back door. They said, you have to leave or you have to shut up. And he says, I'm not leaving and I'm not going to shut up.
Yeah. I like
So
Socrates.
there is a noble quality then that rubs ordinary people the wrong way because they're dedicated to the truth, because it has set them free, and they're willing to spread the truth in order to help other people be set free, knowing that it is going to piss a few people off and is going to set some people free. Because I don't know what happened with that woman in the bank and the boy at a later time. She might have thought over what I had to say and told him so. To be careful about joining the army. Like, don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a point about that kind of action that's neither bright nor dark. that gives results that's neither bright nor dark because of the benefit of the actual doer. In other words, it was perfectly okay with me that these women hated me because I was interfering with her bragging about that her nephew or her son was about to join the army. She was proud of that. And
Right.
so she needed to hear something on the other side.
Hmm. Yeah. And you didn't bottle up whatever it is you wanted to say and have to think about that, or, you know, mm, or if you look at a different circumstance, you know, maybe you tell a student something they don't want to hear, that they want to hear they're enlightened, but you tell them, no, you're not.
No, I will. I will tell every student's enlightened.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
That's a little Mahayana, I know, but it's true. Everybody
Hmm.
can be enlightened. All they have to do is take a deep breath and enjoy the moment. That's enlightened.
Well, whatever it is, a
Yeah,
stu-
okay,
and
stream entry, right.
you tell a student that something they don't want to hear, and
Yes, I do that often.
right, but you're doing what you want to do, and you're not worried about their immediate or their result. You're just doing exactly, and so you're straight in your head and your mind, and you're not causing yourself any confusion, and so you're sticking to your own path, and right. So,
And if they accept the truth or reject the truth is up to their own karma.
mhm,
It's up to their own past. It's up to their own sankara, and
mhm,
it's not up to mine.
right.
The choice is theirs. In that regard, that would be the same way with for instance, Reddit we were talking about earlier before we started the thing.
Mhm,
Telling the truth on Reddit is the right way to go. Whether the reactions are is not the point. That in fact, almost always there's going to be mixed results.
mhm,
So if you advertise this, that, or the other thing on Reddit, you're going to get some people who like it and some people who don't. That's just the
right.
way things are based upon their own past. So we can't let other people's feelings determine the truth.
Yeah, the only thing that you can do is what you feel right is right in the moment. Skill and try to be skillful about
Hmm.
it.
Knowing that eventually this leads to no action at all.
Mhm,
So the haiku, Japanese haiku, I think Bushi wrote this. Um, Very Zen, and the haiku is translated out of the Japanese into English. No place to go and nothing to do, and the spring comes and the grass grows by itself.
mhm,
So a lot of things that we would do with action will happen already. That there's nothing really to do. That happened with the car not long ago. The car or the truck wouldn't start. And rather than in my own style of, okay, now we've got to figure out, does it need a new battery or just a charge? Do we go buy a charger? Do we go get a battery? Do we blah, 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 like that? But basically, when I saw that, I just put it out of my mind. That's not my problem. When Tam comes home, I told her the truck wouldn't start. And then we hardly didn't discuss it at all. The next morning, I wake up and Tam and let us say one of the neighbors is out there and he starts the truck. He gets it going. I didn't have to do anything. I didn't even have to think about it. Not even the first time when I saw the truck not operating did I have to think about what's the way to fix it. I didn't have to even have that first thought. because it happened automatically. Many things like that happen automatically.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Many of the
Okay.
good things that we want, they just happen. Other people have the same feeling, the same thought, and the same idea that you do, but at the point of being noble, you recognize other people want that done, and they'll probably go do it. So there's no
Yeah.
reason for you to have to go do it. You can sit
Yeah.
and be happy.
Yeah. I can see that. Um.
An
Mm-hmm.
example of that would be global warming.
Mm-hmm.
There's two ways to do global warming. One is to have a very small footprint on your own. Well, if you do nothing and go no place, then you've got a pretty small footprint, especially if you're living in the tropics and don't have air conditioning, don't have heating,
Mm-hmm.
don't go anywhere. Then your carbon footprint, very, very small. So that's one way to do it. But that kind of a small footprint is more circumstantial than it is due to global warming. I don't think anybody that is raging about global warming is actually going to do things to make their own personal footprint very small. In fact, they're
Mm-hmm.
probably going, because they're an activist, they're probably going to be using more energy, for instance,
Mm-hmm.
driving to the event, making signs, protesting, and all of that, and then having the police come out. Look at all of that energy and all of that effort that's being wasted in that conflict.
Mm-hmm.
That, in fact, if we really want to work with global warming, the right way to do it is to have a few friends to teach them the Dhamma so that they won't be so activist in global warming.
Mm-hmm.
In other
Yeah.
words, there are two kinds of ways of doing it. You either do it directly for yourself, or you try to get the government to do it your way, causing conflict. Now, a lot
Mm-hmm.
of people say, "Well, wait a minute. We have to go out and we have to war and fight because global warming is so important." The answer to that is go. If you feel that way about it, go do it. I
Yeah.
congratulate you and support you at it. My
Mm-hmm.
only question is, can you do it happily?
Yeah. Because if you're doing if you're leaving no footprint happily, and you're setting the example of a happy life, what it could be like, then you know um, maybe it rubs off on other people. I could see that. But yeah,
Maybe it
really,
will and maybe it won't. That's the
but
whole
really,
point.
there's no way to tell. Like Elon Musk, he's he's trying to solve global warming by creating a car company and selling, electric cars to very wealthy people, um, who are buying the cars and uh, you know getting large car bills that they have to expend lots of energy and go on lots of plane trips and business trips, and you know and end up causing a lot more damage to the environment.
Hmm.
And he doesn't know what he's doing. It could have mixed results. He plans for it to solve the problem, or
Right.
that's what he wants, but that's way, 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 way in the future.
The question is not for Elon Musk, but your average person to consider, if the planet does get warmer, how will it affect your life? And if it affects your life in that way, how will you feel about it? That it is quite possible for the ocean to rise 3, 4, 5 meters. I wonder what would happen to this island if the ocean rose 5 meters here.
Mm,
meters, that's 15 feet. Well, it's not going to reach this house. We're at least 50 meters above the sea level right now. So the house will be safe, but the roads to town will be gone, and so will town. Town will be gone. The question is, where will it go? Will it go into the hills or will it leave the island? That's the kind of questions that we don't know.
hmm Yeah. I mean, it's an existential question. It's because, I mean, you were sort of born into this life at the mercy of whatever it is. If an asteroid hits the Earth, then that's the lot we got.
That's it. Good old whatever it is, and we don't have much control over it.
You think about the baby dinosaur who was born on the day that the asteroid hit. What's he gonna do?
Well,
That's
according to Christians,
existence.
that dinosaur goes to dinosaur heaven because he's
Oh
still a baby.
yeah. All right. Uh-huh. But hmm I think that people um dislike um inherently sort of dislike uh activists because it seems inauthentic. It seems like a top-down approach that you're doing something very inauthentic to affect a change that it
Hmm.
doesn't seem like you're going to be able to affect. And I don't know if it has very much. It definitely doesn't have an immediate effect. You know, Going out and protesting has no immediate effect, and usually doesn't do a whole lot of good.
Um, Let us say that the the goodness or badness of the event or the action of a demonstration is going to be mixed.
hmm
There's some people are going to get good results, some people are going to get bad results, many people, most people are going to get mixed results. And it
hmm
depends upon our view. Some people have the view that, well, global warming is a hoax. Some people have the view that global warming is an immediate danger. But we don't really know. We don't know what the future is going to be. The question is, do you have the skills developed or developing right now so that what happens, you can handle it? Do you actually have the skills to die happily? Because that's going to happen,
hmm
whether it's global warming or a boat wreck or an asteroid or we don't know, internal injury, or let us call it the whole thing just wore out.
Right.
But in any case, we're going to die. So, do you have the skills to die? Knowing that we're going to die, we should get the skills ready to die. I've heard some people say, well, I don't want to think about it. I don't want to have anything to do with it. And I said, okay, what that means is that when you do die, it'll be by accident, probably great trauma.
hmm hmm Yep. Most people.
Don't want to think about it. No, the Buddha was really big on death. He sent his monks to the charnel ground as part of the meditation system. But Westerners nowadays, we don't have access to dead bodies. About the best that we can come to is having autopsies on YouTube.
I I tend to think about uh just the the infinite expanse of the universe, and then also the fact that there's very little likelihood that anyone on the planet will, uh, that even if we did make it to Mars, right, or something like that, say our planet did, when we made it to Mars and we colonized Mars, well, then we have to develop light speed travel on Mars, and you know, and then what's the ultimate? We're going to make it to some alien planet, and they're going to throw us a celebration and say, "Hey, we won," or well, it's just a sort of an existential thing that just it dissociates me from myself in a lot of ways, because it's just an existential thought, kind of like death in a way.
Mm-hmm. That's right. For most people, death is just a concept, just like going to Mars or colonizing Mars is just a concept,
Hmm.
or a dying planet is just a concept. These are all, let us call it, mental spinning.
Hmm.
That the way that we want to live is a way of life that comes out of concepts and lives in this present moment. And so the question is, do you have the skills that it needs to live in this moment happily? If you do, then you can live in the next moment happily. And if you have the skills in development, then you can develop and continue to develop the skills so that moment by moment, whatever comes up, you can do that happily too.
Right.
And then global warming is not an issue at all.
Hmm.
Even if you're the last human on earth and you're gasping the last breath that is now poisoned because of the atmosphere being poisoned, and you're sitting on the highest peak available because it's too hot in the valley, and you're the last one to go, still, that earth is going to be better off without you as the last man than when you're still there. The earth does not need humans, humans need earth.
Hmm. Hmm.
And the earth can get along without us quite well. The question is, can we get along without us quite well?
Mm.
Or can we go through the process of dying quite well? Because that's going to happen, whether it's done with global warming or the shipwreck or the astro. We don't know how we're going to go, but we know it's going to happen. And so this is the whole quality, going back to that fourth kind of karma, is the actions that we take should be neither dark nor bright,
Hmm.
because we're not looking for bright or dark results. We're working on mainly enjoyment of the moment, in the sense of being free from suffering, being free from dukkha, being free from being unsatisfied with this last breath
Hmm.
and wanting another one that we're not going to get.
Yeah. Yeah.
Most people die unsatisfied. Everyone has an unsatisfactory death unless they're planning on it.
Mm. Because we build up all these stories about, you know, death mm, and well, I think it more comes to just the grandiose story that humanity has built about itself. That we are just this magical um, animal that has this special thing called consciousness, and that you know that
No, my dogs
that
are conscious. My gerbil is, he's not mine, but the gerbil is conscious. The tree here is conscious.
well, and that from a million, that, let's say aliens, were observing us, or were we more, any more important than a mold or a fungus, or it's just
Precisely.
um
A whole planet of ants.
hmm yeah,
Yes, when a
there's no
civilization gets sufficiently advanced, then they look on lower life as lower life. That's the way that they look at it.
hmm
But it's possible for a race to actually become noble. Not on this planet, but it would be possible. But the
hmm
way that we look at ants would be the way that other civilizations would look at humans, that we're in fact infesting the planet Earth. We're killing it. The Earth would be much better off covered with forest, with all kinds of wildlife, hundreds of thousands of species, great herds of elk, buffalo, the
right.
kind of thing that it used to be like before America, before Westerners got guns. And so the human race, we think of ourselves very highly, but I don't think that the planet Earth really has much feeling about it one way or the other.
Mm. Yeah, I just don't. The farther along I get, there's just less. There's mm, there's no inherent value in anything. Value doesn't exist really. It's it's what
Well, it does. Value does exist, but value is a matter of opinion.
right.
That's exactly the same way that the Buddha talked about. In fact, you could actually interchange the word God in some context with the word value because we look at God as something super value.
hmm
Okay. So the Buddha talks about in Sutra number 100, he says that he knows for sure that gods exist. He knows it. And the interlocutor at that particular point said, um, most people will say, I believe in God,
hmm
but you're actually making a definitive statement. There are gods, or there is a God.
hmm
Well, that conversation, then, the Buddha explained himself is that the reason that I say that I know that there are gods is because gods dwell in the minds of the masses, that it is common knowledge that there are gods.
Right.
And so what he's doing is he's identifying not just that gods exist, but he's talking about how they exist, where they exist. They exist in the minds of men. Well, that's your value for you. That value exists in the minds of people who hold value. We can
Right.
also use the word meaning. What's the meaning of life? Well, life doesn't really mean anything, but if you can make your life meaningful, it's up to you. You make your own meaning, you make your own value, you make your own gods.
hmm
And so that's what the meaning of life is. The meaning of life is whatever you want it to mean. The choice is yours.
mm That may be a good place to end it there.
Okay, well, I just had someone call, so
Okay.
we'll do that. So we'll talk to you later. We've fully well covered this whole idea of karma,
Comma.
action.
Mm.
There are four kinds. There is good, there is bad, there is mixed, and then there is the kind of karma that leads to the end of karma that is not mixed. It has no bad or no good in it. It's just actions based upon feeling. without having the judgment call of is it good or is it bad. And that leads to a really easy life. A really easy life.
All right. I'm looking forward to it.
We'll see you later.
See you, Dhammarato. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.